Okay. Ooh, somebody turned this up from earlier. Is everybody awake?
Yeah.
I hear myself really loud.
It sounds good out here, though.
Does it sound good out there?
Yeah.
Doesn't sound good from here. Good afternoon. That's better. I am James Smith. I'm the one who sent you the letter. I'm the one who invited you to be here. We're now going to talk about what it means to go through a bond release process and all the questions that you might have. We're going to try to cover some of the details first so that we can answer your questions before you even ask them. Bond release is a complicated process. The state regulates this coal mine, and we are now in the process to release the land back to you as the landowners. That's why we call it bond release. The bonding part is the number that you saw in the letter, and that is best related to as an insurance policy. Like your car has car insurance. If your car gets hit and damaged, your insurance pays to repair your car. The mine took out an insurance policy that if they didn't finish, we could collect the insurance and pay for the repairs of the mine. And yes, we are recording this meeting. We recorded the meeting this morning. We will post those on our state website so that you can be able to watch these meetings if you desire. Or if anybody else that was not here wants to watch the meeting, that you'd be able to help them see that. Lee Rogers is here as our Navajo interpreter, and she does a great job to help me explain exactly what we're doing. Your turn now, Lee.
Yat nasan Arabic agent, she yahay James Smith yinchen kishne, aro she yahay nalsos niji deshla. Ako dijin kwabin yah gon hidot nidige yahay dik ad nalsos bakal niji dalianegi ban release ishne. Ako ban release yahay hai od yah baya deshkito lesh. Ako di da nad nishito yo todo ha zogi ki yahay Hotodo how zogi bige sejun hada gerido ahat ishin Hassan bin da agero bin da altezo da bigina had Hassan bigina ha nishigi ha lehegi ha losigi ha gida ekida days ahat abananish ish enko ad hati de ban release shinigi ki release yo yangi bagan ajo ida bish chido od ya Ako yahay kaya nuje berdo chifniya aji khojij. Arati pan nislinge yahay beso chahna nile odya nge chide beso chahna nile holengi kochid da yita kota ichon beso chahna nile chidojo iho aji chide khashta nadnasha. Ako di khot na nishigi ban di de konk ad ki ede Kaya dojo na yi shon lata, kaya dojo khaydi lata, yahay di beso giya, but anda di nilo yahay anhibeda di nisho anhisht eda di nis, kut acho inigit and kaya hagin jinash and aliago at and hinne best hada zago, yahay di de beso chahna nilen at apit at chahni nila bana nislo lesh. Ako kut yahay bena nishigit Abdullah Hajija dad Sankhana Khaisteo hut adi koda isnahi logo kaya nagno ibn yabal khadi kai ado di kwagi bikede kona so khani isasi gno ndaides kido kan so shi bichet an hausi ado di kwasa ange yahay at ke di kodo yas kido kodo ba khashna at khani ni ako yahay di de beş altın sekizgi diyor, website isne ti bjahanna khait agent just kill just not ligi and khahlodo de son khar khote nanos nokta.
So one of the things that we have often been asked about is access to the land. The roads that we've been driving on will stay in place. There are some specific access points that are easier. Some of the access points do need to go through either Chevron land or other allotment lands, and all of those kinds of right-of-ways to give approval to travel on those lands, those roadways. A lot of that still needs to be ironed out and completed. Chevron is aware of that because of these meetings, that they will need to provide you, as the owners of the allotments, rights of way to access your lands.
Allah benayde kilsa ki yai fahala shahot edornesh ke yandenesh in not benayde kil ako asa donan ago bche das esa yai ab chandi danle di bchandi hin shinike yai di kodo fala ke yai ki shahan soshit ande Chevron bishop kai benani ke yai asabik بشخنا دو يجاش يا دو أخوي ظهي قاش مهان تبدا دي جيدا إياكي أو أخوت إياهاي نانس إيدون عندي كويس سكين أو أسكو إياهاي نوجد بيننا أتلين أسكو نوجد خاندت أكو إيشان كويكي.
Often we are also asked, how many Allottee owners are there in each allotment? Each allotment is 160 acres. We've been given lists from the BIA with information of who they say owns that land. And that's all the information that we currently have. One of the things that if you have very specific requests that you want specific information about your allotment, the best thing to do is send me an email request or send me a text message or call me up on my phone and ask me for that specific kind of answer. Today, the best thing that we're trying to do is give you the broad overview of all the details regarding what's happening with releasing the land. People want to know how quickly are we going to release the land. We're doing our best. Chevron is doing their best to repair the land and complete the process. My best guess is maybe by next year at this time, these lands will have been released. But I don't know. We're trying the best that we can.
Agar shanga benayde kilsa ki yai tide khata zogi ki kon ni cheshani dar yado ni khasni hada zogi ki de kushe yai bishi da bakha da no da yin da iskil ako asar ha zogi ki yai belagan kached asar ne zatina satin kha zogi ga yofta ako hada zo ado BIA ke yai visit of a cow, quay or yeni, quaggy, kayagi, bedetio, a tabishi, bakagi, yai, nijishani, daila, don shanij, nasa daila, a hot other night of Kidoria, Ashish, and Lodation Kishne, they achieving Sadach Idajin, inigi email the yodya, Edo die, Bishman, they Sadach Idajin, inigi text the yodya, Edo die, at Bishman, the Beda House now, husband lodge. Ako DJ yai o at ego skion on endo begin is skion yai kishnahanne but yai koje kayan anche nchi dot lejin van dot asigigi ako yisa ab zaga benat on shati ako kwayo kaso shibo the dot figi ende anan the oyonis on Shashin I Sikodi Kalabana and the Shoshin Yai Kunat E Nakhido Fashin Hajisho E Adla Bone Zakayan Khan Kidid Nish.
Totally the loss for the other things I wanted to talk about. So maybe let's just go into questions, and as you ask your questions, you'll remind me of those things that I need to talk about. Okay.
There was questions about how to change your address or change information. So we got word this morning, talking with other people, that you have to work with a BIA. You go to the BIA office, respectively where you're at, Front Point or Gallup, the federal building, and there's a program called Indian Individual Monies. So if you forget the whole wording, you can just think of IIM at the BIA office. That's where you can go if your name has changed or if your address has changed. So I just want to help James with that.
Okay. Oh, I can say it now.
So yeah, hey, Nishita Osa, Goera, Nada, Nishita Osa, Goera, Nad Sosana, Jagi, Dasha, Goera, Nana such a good Naston, Nada, Hikea has Alvin, Hard, and Zinida Shahazal, out at the husband, yeah, Washington, Jabia, Eda, and Nishita Ajapan, Hanne. I call this easy compoint, then go down to the federal building of the Indian and Georgia because I'm thinking, you have Indian individual monies, but the Danish other budget. I mean, I want to lay down Egypt, then also I obey this IIM, federal building in Yaga, the United States, because I was in the date,
So one of the other things to help you, we printed out a page that you should all have received, and if you haven't received that page, we have more copies. But it's a page that tells you the process that you will go through with the BIA once we've released the land. So make sure that you have that handout from us, and it tells you the contact information, who specifically to talk to at BIA, and also goes through the details, what it entails after we've released the land, what you would need to do to contact BIA, who to talk to, and the process to go through.
Other personality than so Canada. Na Sunday ya as kilo ni khasni do arona na sosla abna ni khasni ya haiti ba hoji jo naste BIA bande ado pe adan sin khane ango ya ada khait anada as kemu na khait at or nisiki khait na de shnasta kaya howan bin yashahado sota no sno edortai Craggy, no, they speak so not glossy, the she not long of the non at the car, as case in the call AI, has never arch is Ido has not so other house in the UK that the other lady, who one car, when yet theatre, ashes of a car or nation zone, out as in the at the car. Do khơi bịch hành do khơi khảo nhảy nhảy hay và chỗ gác đó bịch hụt nào về khảo hành chỉ đó khảo khơi đã cái tập khảo na so ni khas ni.
Okay, let's get some questions. You're going to have to speak really loud because there's a lot of wind and a lot of other noises. So anybody have other questions that you'd like answered?
Sada zeh it da benari dish kisna sunna a kwagin ha adolish ankin hodni ana kuna hado fata da dibi yatkido bi yatkido ilo dai ada hadis no so ayede ko yatkido des wa ashone hala kode ashinde o yosh jekkash araya da tiodo jon hidis sadashe aya gero go yash tiod e ya anan kan nuchele donon de chele sada sadan insan khashi yeshkede josh.
Or you can come up and use the mic.
Ja, she anatomy she ado le kede abichiri de bonasha ako ya ekede de she but amin she tane sami bashi asche dasche nanot eza shame idashmala ako dide ayo kada ishkinde na last one hinsi iki Kenya hashtish anda the nakadin has kanin Kenya banda hasni go shaftina.
Anna Tom introduced herself from being from Abijidi and her clans, and I don't understand this last part that you talked about. Are you referring to the people that have sold back their land, or what?
I met him.
Me?
Last one was in me. Did they sell it when you were saying not my dish, I did not dish, last was ish? I didn't understand you.
Oh, you didn't understand me. Nadesh is what I said. If I want to return and settle back on the land. So this is the process you go through.
Another thing that I also wanted to ask you, James, about the I know the bond. You're just kind of like leasing it to I guess to Chevron, and to understand that part, you're just kind of all these people have agreed to that, and also it just now I have the brain fart here. On these lands, some of them that are not disturbed, are the people willing, they're willing to move back in their area? Are they capable of moving back to where they're, or is it dangerous? How many more years before they, the way I'm looking at for my husband, I think he asked that same question to you. He wanted to move back, but yet he can't move back. And also another question, I don't know if there's anybody that's working for the BIA. Is there somebody that's from the Gallup area? It's very difficult to work with the BIA. So I kind of have to step on somebody else's toes in order to get my answer. So that was the thing. I wanted to know, and he's asking me to ask you when and what day and all this.
Even the land that's not being mined, if it's in the permit, it still needs to go through this process to get released, so that then it can go to the BIA, and then they can work their process to return it to you. That's why we gave you that handout today. That's to help you work with the BIA process to understand what steps you need to go through, who you need to contact to be able to request to move back onto your land. I don't know how long all that's going to take. All I know is from my part of the process, it could take up to a year for my part of the process. And once that is complete, then you go through the BIA process.
Kudan naide kedide keya ado ndeke ne gishan edi gishe bahas an nadaha neha edo da se ab do hasiho has an da se da ab alfa da anda ba at the national da se ako ado so na kunai e ya ai BIA kagi shalmaniya abdul gabdi kilo khala wanan tlapna nisho ede via ayo yangi no inaidesh kit ako kodod atsay inaidesh kili chet ahanatzo ano eya haiti de kaya ajan ado ndeke de de khala Abijambo eya hay atka nagsas na chakadzogi gnanige eya adik at kon nasge na ham afat anis on afat abna an shoshke has ako even na ajashi do ki ambi ke dan dadike dan dente at skogo kad khande bia eya dan aslion atna bando as kaya ta'alini ko doon dito ate hagi na sa suntas ni higi bigyaw hagi dito dito ado di she ko doon na shi bigyan siya hanza je hagi ko doon kita dia ito na sa doon ni higi do siya para ado na dia bante big ni kaya kita hasmi ni anas na to de Edo Khansa Nado, Lefigi Khansa Nado, Jishito Shibas and Walla Khansa, she although Nish Art I Sibina, she
Do we have other questions? Yes.
What if your parents are deceased and just the kids are here? How do you go about that?
That's where she mentioned earlier about the IIM. You need to go to the Gallup Federal Building and go through the IIM organization there to get your information updated and corrected.
Yeah, I did that back in 2018 and nothing yet.
Then you go back again.
And I basically did, I don't know, what's going on?
I don't know either.
Ako corona de chidige yai nishan nasna da chishigi chini khaigi khala ni tiazene yai kwasin industry hishan kishakai ada ido lechno naidish kit ako sto afananat akot asahod na sosana gisahod IIM yod the individual Indian monies with the inishiki non-majority federal building adam yaya chira hash anadi.
Other questions? Yes, ma'am.
I know where I got the place. I was asking you about the drone. Take picture from the top.
Oh, sure.
Mention that.
There was questions earlier about if there was any kind of drone footage or better detailed footage, aerial footage of the mine. And there has been some drone footage that has been done. And if you want some of that, we can try to provide that to you. But again, that's a very special request, so you really need to email me or call me and ask me specifically that this is what you want. We probably can put some of that on our website, I would think. I mean, they're large files, but would Chevron have an issue? I mean, it's kind of public knowledge of...
No, last year we provided that footage from the areas last year.
Right.
So essentially what you're asking for, if I understand you correctly, is you want your 4 points of your allotment and your boundary, your organization, and an aerial depicting that, where that sits. So that's not a hard task.
If I look at the map, can you see what the hill, flat,
Yeah, if you make a request to James, he can send that to me, and then we can send you a PDF document, and you can have that.
Yeah, that's where it's a very specific request. If you're wanting that aerial for your allotment only, then yes, we need to be able to work with that.
But I think you will make it for everybody. everybody, you know, elders. 'cause they-
Well, I don't know if we have all of that area of inventory available. So that's where we have to figure that out.
And the file, if you do everything as one, the file is really, really, really large.
Yes.
Doing it on your personal device.
Die corona is kid lene krego adan di ne di atho in kaya nos velia gi ni trasnegi do yob bahazno ashini na san in le hot atan hot atan ben ini da dian de do den da des kedo do da ko do so da ego do be ka ata hosen do le higin dis shit cha of das ada be ata hosen jo hot do bahosen da o shahi ako aye do bah ayo akan do na sandi gachi da has kiri ko ando na kin do bahosen do down on hada do shishne no in kid ako kodod Sharon Hanso she di kojun na koshiko ha hozo hi shi ko da yilande ako even na jahanne di ako ha na ho di kwagi betinga yon nishiki I sin Friday Jean ido ada chichedo yo na chichende de kwenda bichile ho ewan kisko da biga sa nisha ako gi ko ha zogi biga ho kwagi hot am ha zo bakal hot am khata ya wuchit ya ba hone sa no ya kode nazi ako ba ya atke ako hot ashado nishna son shi to kuji sebe ka hot edo de jane sebe de ni ado de dai na Chevron nishna nisho ka ya khata de de ako zimin khat na na san yo kunanga ko de ada ho zindagi ehas kiba
Any more questions? Like I said before, if you do come up with other questions or things that you're curious about, if you call me or email me, then I can certainly try to respond to that as well. Okay, so what was your question?
Are you going to have any more meetings in the future regarding this whole thing? Or updates or what's being done?
Right now, we don't plan to have any new meetings regarding these allotments that we're talking about and looking at right now. There will be other meetings in the future for other allotment areas, but we don't plan to have any new meetings for this.
We'll receive notice, right? We'll get notification?
I don't know exactly where that process will be, if we'll send out notices at the release of this land or not. That's something that I have to try to figure out. One of the things, people were like, well, if Mine has released the land, then we can go on it. Well, you can, but only if you talk to the BIA about it. So it really goes back to the BIA is where the release of the land goes. It doesn't go directly to you, it goes to the BIA, and then through the BIA to you.
Why isn't there a BIA representative here?
That's a very good question. I wish I had an answer for that. They're aware of this, correct. They're the ones who provided that handout for you. But I understand that they're not here, yes.
그런 날에 계지데 나서 하지쇼 아사나트 하나하 아소레 노에 날에 키 아코 아나지오 에야이 사시바나 아스데 에야이 디진다 카이기 에도다 아로 디트라디 카이기 샤브하다 소리기 아바지시기 에디시 에야이 바나네 아소레 아도 아나바카이 날에 키 nasa wajisho di de kaya nasa adan nijin kunat ne nijidon nidosh nijnadon natsozash ve nijinadon ni no inalekit ako kurot ahanatzo eyai akunzago bansa keso leshit abahaji shado khula akut ada ta'al nahdo lish de bazen godik akodo shevron babide shido bia bia andotlish bia kides indotlish in the day yan shinije agan kanfanden shakil donish bia akobeda shi nije da hazna do de kodo ay koda alat benchil na don ni tabas ne ako yinach naide kit khalet bia net sha'arun khaniya da shashkun khaniya ne bintlan da bidil kishnen no shi no naide kit ako dinar sosni hasnigi na we na sa hoje shekid el na do de shi ke na kaya khan hadi ki da hasne ki shid ya abdullah sakai yin jado to da tsam di wo da ko sa to khoni fasata da bia ne
Yes.
I'll just.
My question is, we just went through this tour, and I think the focal point of this tour was for us to see the vegetation and how it was reclaimed and everything else. Some of the diversions that were taken care of through gravel and all this other stuff. I'm assuming that was our reason for the tour, not just to drive around out there. So what I'm thinking is that a lot of the roads you said, there are roads that probably lead back to my father's property. I made you aware of it and everything. Some of the roads that are not being used, I saw a portion of it that was being reclaimed. They put straw on it and everything. Is that going to be done to all the other roads that are out there that are not being used? Are they going to reclaim it in that way? And then a lot of the anthills that were created, there's a lot of runoff. And there's a lot of barren spots out there. And then there's also some bare spots in certain areas. Are all those going to be reclaimed too before we do this? And are we going to be assured that it's going to be reclaimed to a point where it meets our satisfaction, the way we had it when we were kids? I told you that we herded sheep in those areas when we were small. And so if we see a lot of those anthills. I don't know how the contours were done between present and to the time that it was time for us to go back in there. But to me, it's just going to create a lot of erosion. It's going to create a lot of runoff. And we live in an area where soil doesn't really retain water. And so, how is that going to make vegetation grow? I asked about the trees. There's no trees out there where it's been reclaimed. And I was told that it was hard to grow trees back. So, we